Today, our esteemed guest is Nancy Davis. She is the founder of Race to Erase MS, among many other titles. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So one thing that was very impressive to me is the fact that you created this cause, Race to Erase MS. You not only put yourself out there to say, I'm going to find a cause because I have a personal reason, you also have created something that has taken on a life of its own, but done an awful lot of good. Can you share a little bit about that process and how you came about forming Race to Erase MS?
I was diagnosed at 33 years old with multiple sclerosis. I didn't know what that was. I was terrified having a label put on my life. I didn't know how that was going to change. The first doctor told me to just go home and go to bed and that I was never going to walk again. I could not imagine what that meant. I was in a marriage that was not good. I couldn't imagine that nobody was going to be there to take care of my children. I know I had to be well. There was no two ways about it. I was fortunate that I could go get second opinions. The next day I went and got a second opinion. They did tell me I had MS, and they gave me a bit of a different prognosis. The day after, I set out to get many second opinions. I was really secretly hoping someone would tell me I did not have MS, because obviously I did not want to have this disease. It scared me a lot. Along the way, I went to the best of the best doctors. I was so lucky that I could actually do that. They all were doing identical research, and they knew that they were the only doctor doing that research. And when I would bring that up to them, and these were some of the greatest doctors in the country at Harvard, at Yale, at the Cleveland Clinic, at USC, they were convinced that they were the only doctors doing that. However, they weren't. They told me they were, that I didn't know what I was talking about when I told them that they were doing the same research at other hospitals. I decided I would create something called the Center Without Walls, and that we would fund a special way of raising money that would mean that the doctors would never duplicate research. They would constantly communicate. We would come up with a cure a lot quicker. Sounded like a really simple idea. Not so simple, but however, if you cut to the chase, here we are, 25 years later, we have 15 drugs on the market that have really changed the landscape of MS, helping so many people who have what I had so many years ago live a better quality of life with MS. And seriously, 90% of newly diagnosed with people with MS can now live a good quality of life. It's changed the whole landscape of MS, and I'm so grateful for that.
Well, a lot of people have you to thank for that, along with all of the doctors and the great donors, but you kind of were the driving force in the middle. So I just want to take a minute and acknowledge you for the amazing effort and the amazing outcome to date. Because most people, male or female, when you have 3 children at home, maybe you're struggling in a marriage, which you were kind of realizing maybe that wasn't the right marriage for you, and then you get laid this big label on top of you that basically is probably one of the biggest barriers I can think of. Out of that was born this incredible drive to create something helpful to others. And how many drugs again did you say were on the market?
It's exciting today that there's 15 drugs on the market. When we started, there was none. And MS was really thought to be bleak. There was no hope.
Right.
And now today, there's a lot of hope.
So kudos to you for being the catalyst to get those drugs, because how many people have you helped? Countless people have you helped.
First of all, I am so fortunate that I've had so many people support me along the way. This is not just because of me, it's because of the most amazing team of doctors, the most amazing team of supporters along the way. When we first started, everybody said this was an impossible dream. And I always thought, I love that song, To Dream the Impossible Dream. And I was met with lots of adversity and people saying this could never happen. And I didn't understand why it could not happen and why we could not bring the best and the brightest team of doctors together. And I guess it wasn't the tradition of how people worked in medicine. It just never happened. And it didn't make sense to me why it couldn't. I thought it was an amazing idea, and it made all the sense in the world. And I'm so lucky that we had this group of doctors that put down those barriers that existed, because it was important that this happened. And little by little, we chiseled away at this fortress that had existed for so many years, and it did happen. It wasn't easy, but today, for that person who's young, and usually MS usually affects women at least 3 times as often as men, usually between the ages of 20 and 40, when you're just sort of hitting your stride in life and becoming independent. And this thing happens, and it's larger than life, and it's terrifying. And it's so nice when I get those calls. I get lots of calls from people newly diagnosed with MS. It's so nice to say, here's a variety of wonderful, opportunities and things that you can do to really change the course of your life.
What did you do first when you first got the diagnosis to the point where you said, I'm going to go ahead and bring this all together and create the no walls, the no barriers, a sort of a environment for the doctors? What were some of the first steps, business-wise, to create this organization?
The first thing that I did was I identified the best doctors. I needed to find the leaders who were willing to work as a team, which was not easy. Mm-hmm. I wanted to find the best of the best. And if you don't have the best of the best, you don't always get a group of people who trust each other. It was a really important thing to find the best of the best so that they would come to the table and bring that research and have the confidence, because the best of the best doctors have the confidence that they will do it, and they also admire and respect the other doctors, that they will all be honest and truthful and share. And it was a matter of doing that. And if you bring one of the wrong people to the table, it won't work.
Interesting. How long did it take from the point of bringing the doctors together till the point when you actually had the organization formed? You said we're all sitting in the room and here we go.
It probably took a year to correctly form it, and then along the way there had to be adjustments when things were not working correctly. There had to be a few adjustments along the way, and to this day there's still a few adjustments along the way to get it working correctly. And at different centers, some of the doctors, might transfer out and go to another center, and it sort of upsets the apple cart a little bit. But it's constantly changing and evolving, so you have to go with change. And I'm not one who loves change. I like things to be sort of the way they are forever, but that's not realistic. So things will always change in life, and you have to sort of go with it.
How did it affect, and how does it affect you as a mother? Did that alter your life, the way you think, the way you approach things? How did you deal with that?
Being a mom, you are the CEO of all your kids on some level. You very much worry about their future. You have to be honest with your children when you have a disease. It does affect them, no matter how you look at it. You need to not scare your children, but you need to be honest. You have to find that level of how do you tell your children without scaring them, but also empowering them to help. I see that I have young daughters now, and I see that it makes them feel really good to get involved. I know that their school does not like them to miss school to come help on a charity event, but I found that this affects their life very much, seeing their mom struggling sometimes, but also working on an event also empowers them to know that they're part of the solution and part of helping it. So you kind of weigh out these different opportunities in life, and sometimes they've had to miss a few school events or days in order to help, and I think at the end of the day they will probably take over and help do this event, and I think it's very important for them to realize that. And sometimes they get friends of theirs to help get involved as well, and I think it's very important for them to have that knowledge, and you can't say it does not affect them, because it does. It's their world.
We're always learning and we're always changing, and I think today's woman can have 2 to 5 to 6 different careers depending on what stage you're at in your life. What is next for you, do you think? Do you have something else that you haven't really tackled that you'd like to tackle in the next couple of years?
I actually just started tackling something new.
Okay.
And I've always been very upset about how we deal with drug addiction. And I've seen so many people die, so many young people deal with drug addiction. And it's so pathetic that people who are drug addicts are looked at as such bad people. And we have no resources, and we don't do actual research for them. And the way that everybody's supposed to go to just a meeting, and people are, I don't know, there's just no real medication. So I just started a brand new charity called Cure Addiction Now. And I'm going to fund and also figure out how to give people dignity who are drug addicts. a voice and not put them in a negative spotlight, and try to teach them that they have a horrible disease, because they do, and put money into actually coming up with therapies, going into the laboratory, studying the brain and understanding how your brain changes when you become an addict, coming up with medications to help people, and developing something where you can actually go to a drugstore at night as opposed to purchasing drugs when you've gotten your paycheck, to go get a kit that will help you become able to detox on your own, and purchase this kit that will help you get sober on your own.
Okay, that's groundbreaking. Why isn't anyone else doing this?
I don't know. It upsets me that nobody's doing this, but I've seen so many people I know, even older and younger, die getting addicted to opiates, different things after having surgeries and so forth. And I hate the shame that exists, arresting people, throwing them in jail because they have this deadly disease, and they do. And I feel nobody is putting any money into developing medications to help people that have this horrible disease, or studying the brain and how your brain completely changes when you are an addict. And as like every other disease, even these orphan diseases that affect so few people, they're working on. And I'm working on a very different thing.
I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we have the biggest problem in our country with this. Has anyone in any other country tackled this issue?
In other countries, they're happier to give people medicines to detox, like there's something called Suboxone, and you can get that. You can go to a clinic and get that actually to help yourself detox. In our country, you have to be able to have like at least $1,000 to go to a doctor. That's hard to find the doctor, and it takes weeks probably to get an appointment. Maybe you don't have $1,000, and then you have to pay for the medication, and it's very hard to find those doctors. They don't exist everywhere. So that person who's an addict has to go through a lot, and a lot of times people don't detox because they can't get to the doctor, and a lot of times they might die detoxing, so it's cheaper to get the drugs.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I want to have a kit that you can go to CVS that will cost a lot less, and you can get sober hopefully on your own.
So this is kind of a big deal. This is groundbreaking. But I know that a lot of people, men and women, listening to this, there is a lot of shame associated with having any kind of addiction where you're addicted to a painkiller, a Valium, or if it's an illegal substance. Tell me a little bit deeper. Give me some stats. Give me some more information in the audience, some more information about just how many people this affects and what's not being done about it.
This disease kills more people than any other disease in our country. The amount of people that die is one person is dying every 13 minutes of just an opiate overdose. This is not cocaine, alcohol, everything else. That's just an opiate overdose. It is staggering to think how many people are dying and how little is being done in our country to help this. There's not a lot of research going on, which is staggering. I just started something called CAN, for Cure Addiction Now. We are going into the laboratory. We're going to study the brain and understand what's going on. We're going to come up with medications that help stop it and understand that there's so much money for every other disease, but not addiction. Because of the stigma that exists and the prejudice against people who are addicts, it's really unkind and unfair. They have a disease. Once you become an addict, for whatever reason, it's very hard to give it up. People can't just stop. They say just, say no to drugs. That's great. People who go to the 12-step program, that helps 7% of the people. If you're lucky enough to be in that 7%, thank God for you. That's amazing. How about the 93% of the other people? That's not okay. We can't turn our backs on these other people. We need to come up with medications like we have for every type of cancer, for Parkinson's, for MS, for diabetes. There's so many people dying, and it's just not okay. And we need to stop making these people feel, terrible. They have a horrible disease, and we don't have enough tools to help them. It's time to come up with tools. So I started this new charity, and very much like the Center Without Walls for Race to Race MS, we've put together an amazing team of doctors, and we are going into the laboratory. We're going to come up with medications to really help these people, and I'm really thrilled. It's taken a long time to identify the right doctors, the research scientists, but we are really excited, and we have a really stellar team, very much like a Center Without Walls group of doctors who's going to help, and they're all part of CAN for Cure Addiction Now.
One thing that I love, I'm wearing something that you gifted me with, and I'm so excited to have this and to talk about this, is you've got a passion for jewelry. Tell us a little bit about that and what you're doing with it.
As a little girl, I used to always doodle. I had a doodling habit, and I still to this day I doodle on everything. Even when I'm in a meeting writing important things, I'll have my little doodle. I'm always drawing jewelry. I have this little habit. Along the way, I created a line of jewelry called Peace and Love Jewelry by Nancy Davis. And one of my designs as a little girl was always these. This is what I'm wearing. It's a lotus, and it's kind of a good luck symbol. But most of what I do is a lot of hearts and peace signs. This is a heart and a peace sign, and then this is my loving arc necklace, and this is my lotus bracelet. This is a heart and a peace sign. You have that on there too. At a certain age, when my boys were all finally grown up, I started doing my jewelry line, Peace and Love Jewelry by Nancy Davis. So it's kind of been a fun thing, and it's just my creative outlet, because I just had to do something kind of fun for me that I really like to do. So I'm in a lot of different stores, and I also sell jewelry on a network called Evine, and I go on every so often and sell lots of jewelry. So it's kind of a good creative outlet for me.
So you're a shining example of someone who's had and still has a very, very full life. It doesn't sound like to me that you've had any of your diagnosis or any issues slow you down whatsoever. What are some of the qualities in yourself you think that really have helped you through this entire thing to maintain your incredible force?
I really feel that a positive attitude is everything. I don't think there's any room to be negative. I wake up every day, and when I put my feet on the ground and I feel the ground, I feel so very lucky and fortunate that I can feel the ground, because there was a time I couldn't feel the ground, and I was numb, and I was really worried about being able to walk. And there's always that moment every day that I thank God that I have the ability to stand, to walk, to feel, and I'm very spiritual, and I thank God every day that I can, and I'm grateful for my children and for my health and for my husband and my mother, and the good things that I'm able to do in life every day. And I think it's so important to be grateful. It really is part of my whole being. I have great friends, and there's so many wonderful things, and I think it's so important to always notice and be aware of what's going on around you, and to appreciate that and be really positive. And if you're not, I think those things go away really quickly.
That's very true.
And I know that my health is the best thing that I have going for me. And if I didn't have my health, I would be a mess. And so I know that I cognizantly every day thank God for my health, and it lets everything else in my life happen. So thank God for my health.
So you have your health, and your gala has grown to be something quite huge. How much have you raised over the years for this cause?
I believe we've raised about $46 million over the course of 25 years.
That is amazing. Well, good for you that you've done that. Let's talk a little bit about your book. Not only are you this fierce woman in the business world raising money for causes that no one else has stepped up to do, you're also an author. Tell us a little bit about your great book.
When I was diagnosed with MS, it was really a frustrating time in my life, and I learned so much along the way. And it is so hard to know what to do. So many people along the way have helped me. And I think when you have a diagnosis, you and your loved ones don't know what to do. And it's so important to know what doctor to go to, what a second opinion really means. When you go to a doctor, how to get the best out of your appointment, how important it is to write questions down before you go to the doctor, how important it is to bring somebody with you to help listen and ask questions also with you. If you're ever at a doctor, or if you're ever in the hospital, to have somebody with you to be your eyes and ears, and to also know if you are allergic to something, for them to be there with you. There's so many important things in this book. When you're young and you're maybe graduating from college, and just how important it is to buy your first insurance policy. When we're young, we don't think we will ever be sick in our lives. It's so important understanding what is medical insurance. When you're getting your first job, what should you do? You don't think that medical insurance is important, but after you have your first illness, maybe you have an accident, what does that really mean? And if you have a pre-existing condition, what does that mean for the rest of your life as far as getting insured? There's so many really important things in there to empower you to live a good quality of life.
Thank you for writing it. I think that the audience will probably all like to dive in and read this book. We look forward to tuning back in with you when you launch your next project, and certainly supporting your 2 projects right now. And it's been an honor to have you sitting with Charming Project.
I appreciate you having me.